Chapter 8, Full-Scale Offensive. Isolated and battle-weary, it was only supposed to be a matter of time before the Northern Army collapsed. But Sebekal and Nekybetos, two tough Imperial generals, have held Kaiba at bay by sheer will alone. An irritated Kaiba decides to have another unit attack from the sea and break the enemy once and for all. His plan is to hit the enemy hard with a blitz attack before time runs out. Red 2 standing by, all for lit, and in the green, welcome back to YuGiOh the Falsebound Kingdom. We're bringing the full squad into this. We're going to have everyone at our disposal unleashing power. Now, we can put Robotic Knight back on Kaiba's team. Because, well, of course, one of my best. There we are, so now let's take a look at Moisture Creature, who comes in at level 1. So, as you can see, great stats off the bat. Only 1 AP. Level 5 Magic, also off the bat. The enemy cannot dodge Sterilize Beam. Which does kind of make Silver Bow and Arrow redundant, but it's a good backup. So, we got Garuzus, who comes in at level 1. We got Tiger Axe, comes in at level 1. And Mountain Warrior, which is crap. Garuzus doesn't have any abilities yet. But we've built up some pretty good levels for our monsters, all things considered. We've done quite well. Probably a few others to consider using now. I could give somebody Berthamet and Gazelle so I can use Chimera. But the question is who? Because everyone's doing pretty well as is. I can save that for later, in all fairness. Bones' team I don't mess with. So, Rex's monsters will get good HP, Weevils get great AP. Mokuba's actually doing okay. Bones might be the other joke character, but I don't care. Bones is useful. Bones has been incredibly useful. So, we're now ready to take on the next mission. And I'll have a few things to find along the way too.
General Nekybetos, the enemy is attacking from the sea. What?
Ha 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 ha! Time's up!
Kaiba, you traitorous little bug! I may go down, but I'm taking you with me!
So, we need to take control of Gigan Sip, and we have a whole lot of, basically, water-moving enemies to take care of, so cannons are completely useless for us. Bit of a pain in the backside, but that's just how it goes. Standard items, but let's get a healer. And who do we have coming at us? Oh, ground units, okay. 1 ground unit. So, what I'll do is I'll set Rex up. And then we'll have Bones make his way over towards Sugut, but I won't have him... Well, I'll have him divert from the path a little bit, send him down to Thormount. I'll conquer the other positions later, but I want Bones on hand for some monsters we have to find. The last monsters we will find for quite some time, actually. It's a bit of a pain in the backside in all fairness, because we don't really have a lot of monsters to wind up getting in Kaiba's story. It's a little weird. But it's just how things go. We'll be able to deal with our enemies soon enough, if we get our positions right. Let's see. Cannons are just about ready to go, so Rex can wreck Sebekal, who we fought, I believe, all the way back in Chapter 2 of Yugi's story. Get the guns firing and away we go. Are we facing mostly the same enemies again? Yes, we are. Oh boy, this is gonna suck. Not in the sense that it's going to be a problem, but it's just going to be a bit of a nuisance all told.
Come on, you cowards! I'll show you how a true warrior faces an enemy!
It's all very well and good having a sense of honor, but your opponent has to have a sense of honor too. Personally, I prefer the pragmatic approach. Take out your opponents with tricky but fair strategies. Okay, Monster Tamer can power up its allies with beast commands. As we can see right there. So, it controlled Dungeon Worm and powered it up in the anime. We don't get any such, well, specificity here, it's just any allies will get powered up. Monster Tamer will of course power up too, which is fairly handy. But all our monsters have fairly high health, but they are about as slow as a wet week. And this kind of seems to be a problem with water-themed levels overall. They're so often just slow. It's navigating everything, it's going through them at that really sluggish pace because of the change of movement and everything like that. And it's especially bad when you have to adjust the water level, as people will know from dealing with the water temple in Ocarina of Time. They can be incredibly fiddly, but if they're done well enough, you can actually get some pretty creative ideas out of them. But mostly it's sort of that change of environment, the fact that you have to adapt to entirely new ways of movement, entirely new approaches to your problems. Do all of your items work underwater? Do you need special items? Things like that. There are all sorts of little things along the way that will wind up causing problems for people in water levels. And then that's not getting into swimming controls and things like that, because if you don't have the swimming controls right, things can be a bit of a nightmare. Nice, so Rex's monsters evidently get really good HP. So yeah, that's probably the thing with... That's probably the main issue with these particular matches. The fact that the water levels are just so sluggish. The slow movement of the various water monsters is probably the biggest issue as well. So it's about level 39 that Bound Thunder gains the ability to do more damage to enemy machines. I don't know why jellyfish are associated with electricity. It happens with the Berries and Barries in the Legend of Zelda series too. Pity we don't get an... You know what? That would be something really cool, given that at the time this is being made, we've only just had Scarlet and Violet announced. Why not actually have, like, a distant region tentacle that actually does play on the electric jellyfish thing? I reckon that would be really fun. I mean, that's just me being me, but it'd be a pretty cool approach. Okay. Holy cats! Do you see how good this thing is? Blimey, Charlie. But you do not want to mess with Labyrinth Tank. We're probably going to want to chip away at Giant Red Sea Snake, since it's the strongest. I sent Bones out to deal with our roving monster team because his status effects are going to rip pretty much any enemy to shreds. But yeah, it's really interesting that jellyfish seem to be associated with electricity, but think about it, jellyfish just, in a sense, they just sort of are. They just exist. they don't really have internal organs. Barring predators, they can actually last for quite a long time. And it's so very strange. This one's not doing very much though. And they can be incredibly dangerous. Box jellyfish, really don't want to mess with them. The irukandji, a very small jellyfish, its bell is about an inch wide or something like that. It was discovered up in Queensland. It won't kill you. At least not, maybe not immediately. It's not as obviously lethal as things like the box jellyfish. But it can make you feel like you're going to die. Just the fact you get poisoned by it. You wind up suffering its venom can leave you with this all-consuming feeling of dread that you are going to die. The pain is incredible, and the scientist who discovered it, of course, decided that the best way to study the blasted thing was to sting himself, and then to sting his son. I don't know if Child Protection Services got involved in that one. They probably should have, but seriously, they can. If you're not careful, they could even slip inside the ill-fitting wetsuits and give you a nasty sting. Can you imagine how bad that would be? I'm sure you can, because this is Australia. We've got stuff like that all over the place. You really, really don't want to mess with Australia. Yeah, even the little jellyfish can be incredibly deadly, and there can be big swarms of box jellyfish just sort of drifting sometimes. And there we are, another AP for Water Girl and stats for Labyrinth Ruler. Really, under no circumstances is it a good idea to mess with Australia. Let's be honest, we lost a war to emus. That's how dangerous our wildlife is, and emus are generally the relatively benign ones. It's the cassowaries you really have to watch out for. Emus can be somewhat dangerous, but cassowaries have very, very sharp claws on their legs, and they can rip you open viciously. And they've got quite an attitude to go with it. You don't mess with cassowaries at all. Fire the laser. So yeah, it gets to the point that a shark is perhaps one of the least obviously deadly things in the Australian waters. I mean, it's deadly all right, but it's there are so many other things that will kill you in so many creative ways that just having a shark try and take a bite out of you, that's no big deal. You can handle those. I mean, a shark attacked Mick Fanning during a surfing event and he punched it in the nose. Poor thing only wanted his autograph. But seriously, there are that many strange and deadly and dangerous things in Australia, in the water or on the land. You could make a fascinating water level in a game that's based on Australia. It'd be really, really interesting. There'd be so many terrors from the deep. It's why do you need to worry about the things that are on land? There are so many strange and wonderful things in the deep, and honestly, why do we bother exploring space? I mean, it is certainly nice to, but we don't know very much about what lies at the bottom of the ocean either. And that is really, really fascinating. As a matter of fact, around this time, they're actually doing a study, some sort of DNA study on the Titanic to analyze sort of the natural reefs and bioforms that have wound up essentially being created on the wreck of the Titanic. It's quite fascinating what has happened down there. And in all honesty, taking that time to research the deep sea, it could lead to all sorts of fascinating discoveries and interesting information. Could lead to a great understanding of our planet. it's really worth a go, especially since we do have the technology. Like, yes, it's worth still exploring space, and I do sort of like the idea of space travel. I suppose it's because of all the Star Wars I've watched. But we need to find out everything that's underwater as well, because all of that is every bit as bizarre and strange and alien as things you can find in space. So seriously, let's give everything, all those mysteries of the underwater, a good go. It's honestly worth it as far as I'm concerned. So we're going to wind up just fighting off this wave of enemies. And I'll probably, once we've had this battle, I'll take a little time to introduce you to the monsters we'll be finding. We'll get past this one though. The only difference is Spikecedra, which is counted as a dragon. Bad luck for it. These three are beasts otherwise. Since, under normal circumstances, I believe giant red sea snake, and I know jellyfish, are aqua monsters, Spikecedra is a sea serpent, a fairly early example thereof, and not a very good one. So, it hasn't learned its battery blast. It is apparently associated with electrical attacks. I think its attack will eventually get the ability to do heavy damage to machine monsters, while battery blast allows it to attack all enemies. But that will come later on. And that's missed. Which is a little ironic, since out of those high power attacks of the various elements, Hydro Pump is... no, it's not Hydro Pump that's the best. It's the second best. Because it actually has an accuracy of 80. Which is fairly impressive. It did get its power nerfed to 110, like the other companion moves as such, like its other companion moves, Thunder, Fire Blast, and Blizzard. Thunder and Blizzard have only 70 accuracy. Believe it or not, Blizzard had 90 accuracy in Generation 1 and a 30% chance of freezing. I think freezing was also a lot more useful in Generation 1. As far as I know, a frozen Pokemon stayed frozen. But here they've got a chance to defrost, so it's essentially just a glorified version of sleep. That's just much, much harder to actually inflict on a Pokemon, because ice moves have a 10% chance of freezing generally. There's no sort of instant freeze ice attack. Given how nerfed it's been, they really should have something like that, like some sort of abilities that allow them to hinder their opponent's movements. Things that reduce the opponent's speed would be pretty fitting for more ice moves. But I suppose, keeping with the water theme, the best ice types are indeed water types. So, I suppose we've had a few interesting little ruminations along the way. But now it's time for Pegasus to take over. And then we'll wander on down to see what Bones is up to. Giant Red Sea Snake made its international debut in Tournament Pack 2, then appeared in Tournament Pack 4 and Legendary Collection Kaiba. In Japan it debuted in Booster 4, reappearing in some other booster collection sets. Now, I do actually have to give a bit of respect here. Giant Red Sea Snake is actually halfway decent, even if it does have a fairly obvious name. It does have a pretty good design, and it's got quite solid attack, although as far as water monsters go, it's identical in all but type and art to 7 coloured fish, which was a bit easier to find in release terms, and there were other good normal monsters with about 1800 attack around in the card game. Nonetheless, this is definitely one of the less horrid monsters in card game terms you can encounter on the journey. Oddly, despite his penguin theming, Crump uses this in the anime. It has no manga showings otherwise. Sea King Dragon has never made an international appearance. In Japan, it debuted and made its only appearance there in Volume 6, so that means it's buddies with Hornimp and Kanekabuto stuck in an unenviable club. But it's no surprise we didn't get it, because some king this turned out to be. Sea King Dragon has appeared once, and it probably wasn't that flash to begin with. Sea serpents were pretty rare as a monster type in the early days of Yu-Gi-Oh, and they were often not that spectacular, all things considered. Things did pick up for them over the years and as new versions of the game, like usually around the Zale era, but they were kind of stuck with monsters like this for ages. And on top of that, if I have to nitpick, Sea King Dragon doesn't even use bubbles to attack, and it can't poison enemies, which is a nod to its flavor text. It instead uses the generic hydro pump-like attack a lot of water monsters use. Spike Seadra made its international debut and only appearance in Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon. In Japan, it debuted in Volume 3. And you know what I was saying with Sea King Dragon's profile about sea serpents not being very good? Yeah, Spike Seadra kind of shows that. I'm pretty sure you'd be better off with the Pokemon named Seadra than this card. Seadra has spikes as well, or more accurately the Poison Point ability. I believe it's the only non-poison type which can have the ability, and it evolves into the very useful and versatile Kingdra. Probably my second favourite dragon type behind Flygon. This thing is pretty crap in the card game, let's be honest. Stats are really not that good. It will fare alright in this game and actually gets a special attack hitting all enemies with enough training. Not a bad redemption, but let's be honest, it's not hard to do in this game. And right out in the middle of nowhere are the monsters we're set to meet. Oh, in all fairness, I could have taken Mokuba. So, we are squaring off against a few familiar faces and a new one. So, our foes are level 69 and 72. Hooray, funny internet number. So, Swift allows it to move a lot quicker. I'm not entirely sure how that works. Is it in battle or not? I can't remember. But Sea King Dragon has Super Stamina, Super Stamina allows it to restore HP, but it counts as a status effect so it wears off. Now, Spike Seadra has Battery Blast, as I mentioned, attacks all enemies. I don't know... Oh no, wait. Spike Shoot doesn't get the ability to damage machine monsters. So, what we're looking to do is lock out Spike Seadra. The foe's Seadra was paralysed. It can't move. It may not be able to move, sorry. So, if we knock out Spike Seadra, we've got a bit of an advantage. Sea King Dragon is burly, but it's not super powerful. Certainly not in the card, anyway. Fortunately, we've got reasonable HP when it comes to soaking all this up. Oh dear, I really shouldn't have said that. Haha, water puns. That's terrible. We do want to make a splash in this fight. Our monsters will be making waves. Unfortunately, at the moment, they're getting a bit of a bath. But we'll clean house. Let's lock that one down. That's more like it. Now we can hose down Spike Seadra and leave it high and dry. They will be able to use all of these in due course. They can be fairly handy along the way. We get kind of a preview of their power in these battles, which is actually pretty good. A fairly handy way of teaching you what each monster can do. But in all fairness, how in blazes are you actually supposed to know they're there unless you spend absolutely ages wandering around aimlessly trying to find stuff? You kind of have to be really lucky, or you have to be using a guide. So that's why I've been pretty meticulous about all this. I'm still annoyed that back in episode 5 I forgot about Enchanting Mermaid. Especially since, given that the game sort of runs on the Japanese version, this is, as Weevil once put it, the uncensored version of Enchanting Mermaid. Not that that matters very much. And... Another jet stream. Putting on plenty of pressure. But... unfortunately... ooh, that's got to be some mean whiplash. Yeah, some of the damage animations are actually pretty nasty when they wind up playing out. That's either some really, really good headbanging or some horrible whiplash. I hope it's got insurance. But yeah, basically, once we get to pylon status effects, we just lock them down and they can't do anything. It might get to do one last desperation attack, but this team, put these on any team and they're amazing. But I just feel that thematically they're perfect with Bones. And there we are. Made short work of them. And we get a lot... 8 AP! Good God! 8 AP. Armored Zombie is a beast! Alright, let's get Bones back to Thormount and have Kaiba make his way to the enemy base. We will be cleaning up things in the Gigantship Strait pretty quickly. Time and tide wait for no man or monster. So I think we've only got one more marshal that comes along in Kaiba's story, to the best of my knowledge. I can't really remember us getting anyone else. Trader, we're pretty good for all of those. Wow. Dragon Treasure, Book of Secret Arts. Grab a few more of those just to be on the safe side. What's Bones got down here? I've got... I'll grab a couple of enchanted javelins. Well, 3, that should do. And now it is time for Kaiba to fight Necubetos. Robotic Knight is none the worse for wear after a dip in the Gigantship Straits. I can almost imagine it just sort of walking through like the Terminator or something like that. Or Skinner just emerging from the water when pursuing Bart, like some sort of non-giving up school guy.
Come get me! I won't go quietly!
Alright, well, he's going down anyway. So with this, the Northern Army will be shattered and will be ready to take on... yep, we will be taking on the Emperor himself next. Okay, so biggest threat, probably Axe Raider. No healers. Oh, great. It missed. Like, that's something I always wonder about. It's an interesting thing that pops up, especially with some of the older Fire Emblem games. Like, there is often a dodging animation, but depending on the dodging animation in some of the games, especially in ones like Path of Radiance, they might dodge, but the attack can still wind up going through them if it's a thrown weapon like a javelin. And even with the attacks sort of playing out as normal, there'll be a sound that indicates no damage, but you might have an animation that's basically somebody sticking a lance through someone. That's a pretty impressive way to take no damage. You've been literally impaled, according to the animations, and absolutely nothing happens. It does make you wonder, and then some of the sprite-based stuff looks really, really, really funny when you actually get to see them. Like in the GBA games, the mercenaries' jumping animation. You'll actually see them wind up stretching to about twice their height as they jump through the air. It's really, really weird and really, really funny. Though it is pretty cool to note that there are actual blocking animations for when no damage pops up in later games. Why you can't just do that normally, I don't know, but maybe it's an idea that the attack is too strong to handle otherwise and they can only mitigate some of the damage. Could be the case. And Nekybetos has really not put up that much of a fight. I guess he's all washed up. So I've made enough water puns, I think. And we can finish him off in style. Everything has gone down the drain, and Judgeman has been caught off guard, haha. And how fitting, we finish the water level by lobbing a harpoon at someone. And there we are. A very, very good victory. And another AP for Octoburser. It's really good at dealing damage. There we go, Gigantsip is liberated and we are ready to take on the fight. In the next chapter, we're facing a pretty strong opponent. Until next time, this is Red 2, returning to base.